Hello everyone. In this session, we learn about the database management system, MongoDB. So first of all, let us go over the index. So first we'll learn about what is a database management system. Next, we'll go over understanding the motivation for using databases. We'll have a brief look at table-based databases and then understand what NoSQL or non-table based databases are. Then we'll have an introduction to MongoDB. Inside MongoDB, we'll have a look at MongoDB plus Compass installation. We'll have a look at MongoDB terminologies and try to connect it with table-based terminologies. We'll see the differences and similarities between MongoDB and JSON, and also we'll visualize and understand how to do CRUD operations from Python to MongoDB. So let's begin. So the very first thing which we'll discuss is what is a DBMS or database management system. So a database management system is a program for structured storage, retrieval, update, and removal of data. What it means is that when you're trying to store your data, you want to do a lot of operations to ensure that there is a consistency, your data is not corrupted, and you are able to fetch the data, update it efficiently. You need to have some programs. Such programs are called database management systems. In the market, there are a lot of database management systems like MongoDB, MySQL, PostgreSQL, and so on. Let's see what is the motivation of using these databases or database management systems. From now on, instead of calling them DBMS every time, we'll be calling them databases itself. The very simplistic database that you can think of is storing your data into a JSON file. There are some limitations to this method that you have to read the entire JSON file even if you want to read only one part of the entire file. You can't do multiple read write operations simultaneously, and there seems it's not efficient to store your entire database always on the hard disk. So there are a lot of limitations to having such a simplistic database, but even storing your data into a JSON file, reading it, updating it should provide the basic tasks that a database management software does. So as we already discussed, the limitations of a simplistic database are that the parallel writing is not supported. If there are two processes which are trying to write simultaneously into the database, there comes a race situation where the one overwriting at the last will remove the data set which was updated by the first process. Also, to get one document or one part of the data, you have to read the entire document and also write the entire document when you are just updating a single part of the entire database. Also, you have to write the logic for using filters by yourself. When you are trying to search for some specific document in your entire database, you have to write the logic to search for that document by yourself. Whereas in this DBMS, they already provide a lot of complicated filters which you can directly use without writing your own code. Also, a very big important part is that you cannot scale up easily. Let's say your database size keeps on increasing and you're not able to store it on a single computer, then you do not have any other option. You have to keep on increasing the computational resources of your own computer, and you can't actually start scaling it up for very big enterprise solutions. So these are the limitations of using a JSON kind of structure for a very simplistic database. So that is why we need already existing database management solutions so that we can leverage the features provided by them. So let's start with the table-based databases, or they are generally called relational databases. The table-based databases were the ones which came early on and they became popular And after that, the non-table based databases were introduced. So first of all, let's have a look at the table based databases. In a table based database, as it is the name also suggests, the data is stored in tables. So you have a table which has a table name. It will have a lot of columns which correspond to different key values. Like you'll have a column corresponding to the ID, rating, user ID, movie ID, and so on. And then for each column, you have one row which corresponds to one entry in your table. So your entire table can have multiple entries. On each row, there is a new entry having all the attributes like the ID, rating, user ID, and movie ID. In these tables, you can store the ID of another table and then use that to connect to the data of another table. So let's say you have a ratings table in which you have the columns named ID, rating, user ID, and movie ID. You have a users table as well, which has the ID, first name, last name, and email. Now you want to connect the ratings of the user and to the user data. So you just store the user ID, and from the user ID, you can connect it to the ID of the row on which the user's data is kept. So that is why these type of databases are called relational databases, because by storing the user ID, you can connect to the different tables and then store the data in a relational manner between the different tables. MySQL is a good example of relational databases or table-based databases. Now let's have a look at the NoSQL database. NoSQL databases, as I already mentioned before, were introduced a lot later than the table-based databases, and they were introduced to handle some of the limitations of the table-based databases. A NoSQL database like MongoDB, if you visualize it, it will look very similar to a JSON database. It has key value pairs, and you can have a lot of inside the key also you can have an object which can keep on storing as many key value pairs as you want to. A NoSQL database, unlike a table, is not limiting you to store any kind of data that you want to corresponding to a particular row. In a table based database, you have the limitation that you have a fixed number of columns. So over here in NoSQL databases, you can have different key value pairs corresponding to every data entry. So that is the advantage of using NoSQL databases. You do not need to have a structured template for all the documents in your database. Let's say you are on Facebook. So you may have a different number of posts compared to some other person. You may have different chats with different people and so on. Storing them in a table format is possible, but it might not be an efficient solution. MongoDB or NoSQL databases allow you to personalize the database for each user, and hence storing the data efficiently as well as retrieving it efficiently as well. So now that we know the basic advantages of using the NoSQL database, let's have a look at the MongoDB, which is one example of a NoSQL based database. So why MongoDB? Why we should learn MongoDB? So the very simplest reason is that it's a NoSQL based database. So it has all the properties and advantages over the table based databases or SQL based databases. Also, MongoDB is schema less. Schema means a template. So you do not need to define a template beforehand, and you can make modifications easily into your database as and when you require it. So you do not need to do not need to plan a lot ahead before creating your databases. You can keep on modifying them as and when you need to add new features. Also, MongoDB is really easy to scale. If you want to create an enterprise level solution, then scaling up MongoDB to handle as many number of clients as possible is easy to do. So now that we know the advantages of why we should learn MongoDB, let's start with installing MongoDB and a MongoDB database visualization tool named Compass. On Windows, if you want to install MongoDB, you can Google download MongoDB, go on the following link, and then choose the version, platform as Windows, and packages as MSI. When you download it, you'll get an executable which you can install to install MongoDB on your Windows platform. Similarly, to install Compass, you can search for how to download Compass and you'll get the following page. There you need to choose the platform as Windows 64-bit and package MSI and download the Compass. The installation is pretty straightforward and you will be able to install the Compass as well. On Linux, you need to go to the same platform as the Windows, but choose the platform as Ubuntu 20.04 or any other Linux supported platform, and then you can choose the package as deb. To install deb files, you can use the command line, or you can double click on the deb files in Ubuntu to install MongoDB on Linux. Similarly, you can install Compass as well on Linux. So now that I hope you have installed MongoDB, let's have a look at some MongoDB terminologies. In these terminologies, I'm going to compare it with the RDBMS, which means Relational Database Management Systems. And because usually people are familiar with what RDBMS um, terminologies are, and then I'm going to compare it with the MongoDB equivalents. So first of all, in RDBMS, the database, it means that it will have a lot of tables. In MongoDB, the database means that it will have a list of collections. So a table is equivalent to a collection. A collection will have a lot of entries inside it. So these entries, which are called rows in RDBMS, are called documents in MongoDB. So each entry in your database corresponds to a document in MongoDB. Lots of documents are made up together make up a collection, and multiple collections, they make up the database. Also inside the document you have key value pairs, which you called fields over here. So in your JSON you have key, so in MongoDB you have field, and similarly in table based databases you have columns which correspond to particular fields in the table. So these are the terminologies that we'll use. So the database is the top level and entity which comprises of collections. Collections comprise of documents, and documents have a lot of fields. So let's have a look at the similarities between a document and a JSON. So if you have a look on the right hand side, we have the MongoDB document, and on the left hand side we have a JSON. If you look at it, there does not seem to be much difference, and you can keep on storing the key value pairs inside a JSON as well as a MongoDB document. There are some subtle differences between these two types, the JSON and the MongoDB document. So let's focus on the small differences. So the very first difference is that the data types supported in MongoDB are different from JSON. In MongoDB, you have a lot more data types than what you have in a JSON, and I have shown the corresponding mapping which you can convert your MongoDB data types to the JSON format. So in MongoDB, you have the object ID, which is a unique value for each document in your MongoDB database. This object ID can be converted to string, but it loses the data type, which is the object ID. Next, we have the string, which is also supported in JSON. In MongoDB, we have integer, but in JSON, we just have a number. So if you want to store double, then you can efficiently store it in MongoDB, but in JSON, it is still stored as a number data type. You have the Boolean data type in MongoDB as well as JSON. You have arrays in MongoDB as well as JSON, objects, which correspond to something like dictionaries in Python, and then you have a date data type as well in MongoDB, but you do not have it in JSON. So if you want to store date, then you need to convert the date to a string and store it inside JSON. So these are the different data types which are supported by MongoDB. They do not have their, all of them do not have their equivalent in JSON, but you can convert them, typecast them, and store them in JSON. So now that we have a basic understanding of how MongoDB stores its data, let's have a look at the CRUD operations. Well, let's first understand what CRUD operations mean and visualize them in Compass. For using the MongoDB, so MongoDB is an application. We have already installed it by downloading it from the website. But now we need to execute some commands which are exposed as APIs on the MongoDB via our own interface. This interface is provided in Python by a library named PyMongo. We'll be using PyMongo to send commands to MongoDB so that the MongoDB can create, read, update, and delete the documents. So just now I used the words create, read, update, and delete. These are standard operations that happen on all kinds of database. That is why they have been abbreviated as CRUD operations. C stands for create, R stands for read, U stands for update, and D stands for delete. So let's have a look at each of these operations in detail and see how to execute them in MongoDB. Before we start having a look at the CRUD operations, first let's see how do we connect to the database from Python to MongoDB. So first of all, you need to install the PyMongo library. You can do this easily by doing pip install pymongo. After you have done that, you import from PyMongo the Mongo client. Inside Mongo client, so to create an object of the Mongo client class, you need to pass a connection string to this class. The connection string will contain the username, password, database name, URL of the server on which MongoDB is located, as well as the port on which MongoDB is running. There are a lot of parameters which can be passed inside the string. If you keep this string empty, let's say you do not provide it with any argument, then Mongo client will connect to the MongoDB on your local host by the default user. So if you just want to debug and run your Mongo client on your local computer, you can keep these parameters empty. After you execute this command, you have connected to the Mongo DB on your own computer, and you have the object returned as client. If you want to create a DB in your MongoDB database, then you need to just do client square bracket and the name of the database. So you can provide any database name over here, and this command will return the database object, and you can store it inside a variable. By executing this command, you have created a database. So it's very simple to create a database in using PyMongo. To create a collection, it's similar to creating a database. You take the DB object and then you pass in the name of the collection. This will return the collection object which you can use to connect and execute CRUD operations inside your DB. So over here, instead of collection name, you can pass in any name of the collection. So now that we have our collection, let's see how to create a document or insert a document inside our collection. There are many different data types which you can insert inside a collection, and over here I have specified all of them. Earlier we did not talk about this one kind of data type, which is the null data type. So you also have a null data type which stores the value none inside MongoDB, as well as you have the same thing in JSON. So now let's see how to insert a document inside a collection. First of all, I have imported datetime, which I'll use to generate the current time and store it inside the MongoDB. So that is why we import the datetime library. Next, we use the function collection dot insert underscore one. This is the function which is used to insert or create a document in MongoDB. Inside the insert one command, we pass in a dictionary. In this dictionary, we have the key value pairs, and over here, as you can see, I have defined the key as the data types in string format, and then I have put the corresponding data type objects over here. So string has the string value, integer has 1, boolean has true, and so on. You can also have inside an object the same kinds of data types which are supported by MongoDB. So inside this object, we could have a date time variable as well. Once you pass a dictionary to this insert one collection, you insert the document in your MongoDB. An object is returned which can be used to check the status of inserting this collection, of inserting this document inside the collection. To, whenever you insert a document, a unique ID is generated by MongoDB and provided it to the document. If you want to have a look at what the inserted ID is, you can print the status.inserted ID to get the numeric or the string value of the ID. So I created a program which I stored inside mongodb.py. I ran this Python program and you can see the inserted ID we get is a string like this. The inserted ID contains the time at which the document was inserted, and you can extract it by the MongoDB libraries as well. So now that we know how to create a document, let's have a look at how to visualize the documents which are present inside MongoDB. So if you remember, we already have installed Compass. When you open the Compass and you click on connect, you will connect automatically to your local uh, MongoDB server. Over there, you can now choose the database which you created, which is the database name. When you choose the database name, you will see your collection which you created. And if you click on the collection name, you will be able to see the corresponding document. In this document, you can see the string, integer, boolean, and all the data that we added, but a new key has been added, namely the underscore ID, which has the object ID with the string which we saw when we printed the dot inserted ID. So this is how you visualize the database using Compass. Compass also has a lot of features. You can add documents directly from Compass GUI. Also, you can export the database inside a JSON or a CSV file and then upload it in another Compass interface. So you can download the data from your local DB and upload it on a remote DB easily using Compass. Also, you can connect to remote databases using Compass by using SSH tunneling. So you can find out how to connect to databases using SSH tunneling in Compass easily via the internet. So now we know how to visualize the DB. Let us have a look at the remaining CRUD operations. So the next operation after creating is reading. So to read a document, the code is fairly simple. You can we already have the inserted ID. So you can convert this inserted ID, which is in the string format, to an object ID. So you import from bson, which is a library, you import object ID, and then you do collection dot find one. This find one is used to read your documents, and inside find one you provide a dictionary which has the key underscore ID and the corresponding value, which is of the object ID type. So if you provide to this function object ID the inserted ID, it will return. So this inserted ID is in the string format. When you pass it through object ID, it will return the object ID corresponding to this string. When you pass this dictionary as an argument to find one, it will find all one document which has the ID corresponding to the value given over here, and it will return the inserted document as the return variable. And then you can print the inserted document to check the data that you get. So I created a program and ran the code, and you can see that we got our dictionary which we had inserted earlier inside inserted doc. If MongoDB is not able to find any underscore ID having the corresponding object ID, it will return an object which will be not true. So it will return a null object or a false statement, and you can compare it with none to check whether the results returned uh, are true or false. So this is how you read a document in MongoDB. Instead of using underscore ID, you can use any of the key value pairs that you had inside your document to find your collection. It's not necessary to find all collections by just underscore ID. You can even compare the string key and with the corresponding string to search for documents. So that is how you read a document in MongoDB. Next, updating the document is fairly simple. You can do it in just one statement. The way to do it is you use collection dot update one function in which you need to pass two arguments. The first argument is the find query. So to update the collection, to update the document, you first need to find it inside the collection, and we do that by using the find query, very similar to the find one command. So it's very simple or similar to the find one statement where we pass in the key value pairs corresponding to the documents that we want to find. So we pass it over here as the first argument, and in the next argument we use the $set command, and we set the key value pairs specified in the set command. So these are the values that we provide to be updated inside the document. So whatever key value pairs you provide inside the set command, they will be updated in the document. You have a lot of commands like set, push, and so on, which you can explore to selectively update the values and learn how. Let's say you want to append a new value to an array, you can do that by using the $push command. So you can have a look at the MongoDB documentation and get to know about the different kinds of commands which are available, and you can use it inside update one function. So this is how you update a document. Next is how you remove a document. Removing a document is also fairly simple. You use the delete one function and provide in the find query corresponding to the document. So MongoDB will find the document having the key value pairs corresponding to the one you specified, and then delete the document from this collection. So that is how you remove a document in MongoDB. So there are many filters you can apply in MongoDB in the search query. So let's have a look at a few of them. So let's say you want to find a document inside a collection which has the key double greater than which should have the value greater than zero point 0.1. You can specify commands like $GT, which stands for greater than, and you can specify the value as well. You can have a look at the different kinds of commands or expressions inside the MongoDB documentation. You can combine multiple commands like this. Let's say you want to find a document which has the value for the key double greater than zero point 0.1 and less than 1.5. So you can combine two different commands and then execute your find operation. So you can combine logical statements inside a query to apply filters onto the documents to create complex searching operations. So these are filters in MongoDB.